Yeah. All right, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show. It's another day that ends in Y, and Donald Trump coming after American voting rights. Let's discuss with former Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke. Beto, great to see you. Great to have you back on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's been too long, and it's perfect opportunity to catch up because there's this decision that just came down from a federal judge, I believe today, smacking down Trump's executive order, their attempt to assault mail-in voting. The New York Times puts it this way: a federal court in Massachusetts struck down crucial components of an executive order from Trump that sought to place significant restrictions on mail voting as unlawful, null, and void. The ruling from the judge amounted to a broad rejection of the Trump administration's attempts to change federal election procedures through an executive order. And it says, the judge wrote, the Constitution does not grant the president any specific powers over elections. The judge wrote, adding emphasis by underlining the words, quote, does not. I wonder if he'll get the message with the judge underlining the words does not, Beto.
Yeah, let's think about who votes by mail. Service members who are stationed in the Persian Gulf right now, forced to prosecute this president's war of choice in the Middle East against Iran. College students who live hundreds or thousands of miles away from the county where they are registered, and it would cost them perhaps thousands of dollars to fly home to vote. So instead, they vote by mail. Senior citizens, many of whom also have disabilities, and it is literally physically impossible for them to vote in person. By and large, these are the millions of Americans who use this perfectly legal system of voting, including, our most famous senior citizen, Donald Trump, who also chooses to vote by mail. So as you know, Jim, and it bears repeating, the incidence of voter fraud, including voter fraud through mail-in ballots, is more rare than being struck by lightning. It's not as though we don't have to be vigilant against it. We should. We need to ensure that we always have free and fair elections, but we don't have a problem right now with it, and certainly not one that would require canceling mail-in voting. So this is a very welcomed decision. Let's see what the president and his solicitor general do in terms of trying to appeal this. But I do think it is a preview of other tactics that he and those with him will try to employ to effectively disenfranchise people from participating in the November midterms.
Yeah, and we should point out, Beto, you've been working on getting voters registered in Texas. There's a huge election coming up this fall there. We can talk about that in a little bit. But on this mail-in voting thing, you're absolutely right. Trump is a huge hypocrite on this, as he is on so many things. He votes by mail, and he voted, I think, recently just this year by mail, and he was busted on it, and he was asked about it. He just sort of, he can't really explain why he does it and wants to deny it to others. But the Postmaster General, of all people, was at a hearing, I believe this was yesterday, and was grilled on this by Senator Gary Peters of Michigan about this whole push to essentially force states to hand over their voter rolls in order for mail-in voting to occur in those states. And if we can play that sound, it's kind of extraordinary.
If a state refuses to turn their absentee voter list over to the federal government, will the Postal Service still mail their ballots under this proposal route?
Under our proposed regulation, no. We would tell the state that we need the manifest in order to, look, what we're asking for.
That's the answer. You would tell no. So the proposed rule basically coerces states to conform to these new requirements and hand over their absentee voter rolls, or face the consequences of not being able to vote by mail. Some states, that's all they do. Oregon is completely vote by mail. If they say, no, we control the list, the states control the list, we're not going to give it.
Oregon has followed Kit 600 since the day they started voting by mail.
This is a different issue. This will be a lot different issue. You're telling these states either give the federal government this information, trust the federal government, trust the Trump administration. We'll take good care of these. Yeah. And if you don't do it, you can't mail absentee ballots. You're going to make a decision that people cannot vote by mail. That's unacceptable.
Well, all that does.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess the job of Postmaster General was important in like the 1800s and that sort of. But I cannot imagine the Postmaster General being put in charge of being involved in our elections. I mean, that's another part of this that just sounds totally insane.
The Constitution is crystal clear on this. The time and logistics and the execution of elections is up to the states. And the federal government has very little power, the president included, in overseeing them or changing regulations or doing something as asinine and unconstitutional and illegal as canceling the ability for millions of Americans, including, as Senator Peters pointed out, in states where it's literally the only way that people vote, like Oregon. And there are other states where it's where a majority of voters choose to use the mail-in option. You know, in Texas, in my home state, where our group Powered by People is organizing, our governor, Greg Abbott, in addition to redrawing 5 congressional districts in an attempt to hand them over to Donald Trump and the Republicans, has also sent the full voter roll. So all of our personal, private, privileged information to this White House. Again, illegal, unconstitutional. It's not just that there is no requirement to do that. It's actually illegal to do this because we know that someone like Donald Trump will use this voter file to attempt to purge voters from the list. If your last name is Acosta or Sanchez or Jimenez, watch out. If your skin is black, watch out. They're going to make you prove that you should be able to have your voting rights restored after they purge you. And we know that if that happens, there's going to be a lot of people who either because it is inconvenient or because it is humiliating, or because they don't have the wherewithal or resources to do this, will not be able to vote in this next election. It's why Powered by People and many other groups on the ground in Texas right now are vigorously signing up every single voter who's targeted for suppression and intimidation to make sure that we can monitor their voter status, and if they are purged, help them to restore their voting rights. Because it's not if this is coming, it is when this is coming. This is on top of Trump musing to the New York Times earlier this year that he wished that he'd had the National Guard seize ballot boxes in the 2020 election. That is an admission that he's going to try to do this in the 2026 midterms and potentially ahead of the 2028 presidential election. So we have to be on guard. And beyond that, we have to be doing the work right now to make sure that we can overcome these challenges before it's too late.
Yeah, and Beto, I mean, speaking about the administration going after people of color, African Americans, Latinos in this country, the Supreme Court today essentially, and these are basically 6-3 decisions, very ideologically split decisions. The Supreme Court is going along with Trump's crackdown on immigration. They are essentially giving deference to Trump's ability to set the nation's immigration policy. And this is according to the New York Times. In one ruling today, the justices allowed the Trump administration to end humanitarian protections that have permitted people from Haiti and Syria to live and work legally in the United States for more than a decade. This is part of that temporary protected status program. And, this was a 6-3 decision, as I said. And this goes back to, remember when Donald Trump was talking about the Haitian migrants in Ohio eating the cats, this disgusting racist attack that he leveled back then. I can't believe the Supreme Court would go along with this when TPS is a program that was passed by Congress. It's allowed vulnerable communities to have this kind of immigration protection status in this country. And the Supreme Court is going along with Trump to just do away with it.
We all want, and I mean, this is every Republican I've ever met or listened to, every independent, every Democrat, every American. We all want a legal, orderly, and safe process for people to immigrate to this country. I think on that much, all of us can agree. And Jim, to your point, temporary protected status, TPS, is a safe, orderly, legal way, following the law, way for people to come to this country. So when you have devastating earthquakes and natural disasters and the chaos that reigns in the streets of Port-au-Prince and the rest of Haiti, we can either accept that people are going to come here illegally, undocumented, in a disorderly fashion against the law, or we can create a program that allows us to vet them, to ensure that we're not bringing anyone into this country who would do us any harm, and to ensure that once they are here, they can lead productive lives where they are taxpayers, contributing to their communities and to the success of this country. That's what TPS does. And it's really important for everyone to know that every one of these hundreds of thousands of Haitians and Syrian refugees and immigrants has come here lawfully and are obeying the law right now. But because of this Supreme Court decision today, they will be removed from the United States and sent back to these countries where many of them we know will face certain death. They are on lists, maintained by the criminal organizations, in some cases, the governments of these countries. And not only will they be persecuted and imprisoned, they will be tortured and they will be killed. And this is what we are doing to people from a country that is comprised of refugees, asylum seekers, immigrants from the world over. That is the genius of America. That is what has made us great in the first place. And in addition, the other major decision today is that the Trump administration is going to be able to stop people from even attempting to follow the lawful process of claiming asylum. Not that we want to grant asylum to everyone who asks for it, but if you are being persecuted, if you will be killed if you go back to your country, even worse, if your baby girl will be raped, if your son will be killed or pressed into service in one of these narco gangs in Latin America, and that's why you came to the United States, you have every right under our law to make your plea for asylum. If it is rejected, you have to go back to your country of origin. No two ways about it. We've got to accept the rule of law in America. But if you pass that bar, then we welcome you into this country where, again, we want you to be productive. We want you to be safe. We want you and your kids to do well, because that is the story of America. All of that is ending right now through these decisions. And so our recourse, since there's no higher authority to appeal this to, is to win big elections. And there's no bigger election than the Senate race in Texas. James Talarico represents the 51st vote in the U.S. Senate. So if you're sick and tired of ICE thugs, plain clothes without warrants or badges, rounding up people, separating families, brutalizing Americans, killing them in full view on the street, then we've got to elect people who will stop this insanity and stand up for something that, again, I think we can all agree on. Let's find safe, legal, orderly pathways for people to come to this country and be productive, contributing members of society. I think most Americans can agree on that much.
Yeah, no, I think there's no question about it. And I think that the asylum ruling, again, goes back to what you were saying, Beto, which is it's just fundamentally changing the character of the country. And I guess the Supreme Court is saying, well, the president of the United States typically can control immigration policy. But this flies in the face of the American tradition of welcoming the asylum seeker, of welcoming the refugee. To me, it's un-American.
And what the dissenting justices pointed out is, and you alluded to this, Jim, is the current policy now ratified by the 6 conservative justices is based on racial discrimination. We know what Donald Trump has called people who come from Mexico and Latin America. He has described them as animals. That is a direct quote. As rapists and killers and criminals by default, based on their country of origin or their ethnicity or the color of their skin. He's described Haiti as filthy and disgusting. Meanwhile, I think the only group, to the exception of this cancellation of asylum and refugee protections for people, are white Afrikaners from South Africa. And listen, if they're being persecuted, if they are in fear for their lives, then of course I want the law to apply and work for them as well, but not to the exclusion of anyone whose skin is brown or black or comes from a Muslim majority country, which is de facto the law of the land, again, now endorsed by a majority of the Supreme Court after today's rulings. And our only response to this, I mean, we can call it out for what it is. And the liberal justices did just that. And actually, Justice Sotomayor said, this slams the door shut on all of those who are fleeing persecution. I think Justice Kagan talked about the racial, she said, undertones and overtones of Trump's policy. So call it out for what it is, but now we got to go win elections, and we've got to win political power so we can not just get back to where we were, because where we were got us to where we are right now, but to get to something better. And this new generation of leaders, and again, James Talarico, Gina Hinojosa, who's running for governor here in the state of Texas, the Democrats running for every state house and congressional and state Senate seat in the state of Texas. This is the bellwether. This is the battleground. This is where I really believe the fate and future of America will be decided. And so I welcome people to join us either through Powered by People or contributing directly to these campaigns, or putting on one of our yellow volunteer vests and getting out there and meeting the future voters who I believe will comprise the margin of victory in these critically important races. That's how in America we resolve our differences peacefully, nonviolently, at the ballot box. We've got to win.
And Beto, I mean, you got a Texas Democratic Convention coming up, and you mentioned James Talarico. I only can imagine how you would have done against Ken Paxton. I think you would be in the United States Senate right now, but it'll be James Talarico who is taking on Ken Paxton. And I think, what are your thoughts on that race? And, people might be tempted to fall into a false sense of security that, because Talarico is going up against Ken Paxton and he's so compromised that we got this in the bag. There's just, Democrats have this in the bag. To me, it's still going to be a battle. It's going to be a fight all the way to Election Day, it seems to me. And look at the way they're going after Talarico, calling him Talafrico and all this, talking about his girlfriend and all. And I'm thinking to myself, you're only helping him when you say these things. But what has been your response to all this? Because you know that they came after you too.
Yeah. First of all, Talarico's genius. He's they also, in addition to Talafrico, which he made into a T-shirt, right? Because he's just his command of the situation, how comfortable he is in his own skin, how ridiculous these attacks are. He's just a genius. He got asked about this charge that he's low T, Talarico, and his response, I don't think could have been better. He essentially said, look, at my age, not only do I not know what that phrase really means, I don't think we have those kind of problems. Without saying that Ken Paxton can't get a boner, he was essentially saying that, look, that's a problem for your generation and people like you, not me. We're turning the page on this old kind of politics and these old people who have no business running one of the most dynamic, bold, beautiful states in the union right now. So I'm excited about him, the best communicator I've ever seen in my life, the greatest candidate we've ever put forward. But here's what's different, because as you alluded, in 2018, during Trump's first midterm, we got really close, but we came up 2.6% short to Ted Cruz. We raised a ton of money. We had an evil villain as the contrast in the sitting U.S. senator. We helped a lot of down ballot candidates, including James Talarico, who won his race against an incumbent Republican state House member at the time, but we didn't win the big one. So what's different now? Again, one, the candidate is just extraordinary, generational talent. But two, there's a lot of work that's been done on the ground, again, including with Powered by People. These are thousands of volunteer Texans and some who help us from other states who meet future voters where they are, get them registered, and then personally stay in touch with the people that they met face to face, eyeball to eyeball, in the flesh, and ensure that we answer their questions about voting, that we help them through any challenges that the state or the federal government now might pose to their ability to vote. And then we nudge and encourage them until we can confirm that they have cast their ballot. The 18 to 29-year-olds that came through our program in 2024 voted at a rate of over 79%. That compares statewide to that same demographic that voted at a rate of under 39%. So twice the likelihood that you're going to vote if somebody personally takes the time to get you registered, stay in touch with you, and push you until you cast that ballot. So we're welcoming all volunteers, anyone who wants to help, anyone who wants to be part of the solution to the challenges we face. This is how James Talarico wins, on top of all the gifts that he's bringing to the table right now.
Yeah, and I heard a stunning statistics. I was at a dinner with some federal election officials, state election officials from around the country. It was just one of these events you go to in D.C., and I heard one of the speakers say that, voter turnout during midterms is traditionally very low, and basically the record level that we've ever gotten to as a country during a midterm is around 50%. So that means an extraordinary number of people stay home during midterm cycles. And if you're staying home during this midterm cycle, I don't know what we can do with you. We need to bring you a free TV. I don't know, a free turkey. I don't know what we do to coax you to come to I guess, Elon Musk likes to hand out checks, but we can't really do that. It's not really legal, but something has to be done to coax people to get to the polls. But Beto, before you go, I have to put you on the spot, and I have to ask you something that I have been batting around in my head, and you can just go ahead and tell me what a fool I am for thinking this kind of thing. But if James Talarico wins this Senate seat, I don't see how there's any way the Democratic Party can let him run for president in 2028, because you will have a Texas Senate seat in the Democratic column. Am I crazy to think that? Has anybody thought about this? Or do you think Talarico is the kind of, you called him a generational talent, do you have to just let wild horses run and just say, okay, you got this, sort of like Obama did, and then he ran in 2008. Is it that kind of a scenario? What's your sense of it?
Well, first of all, I think he's that talented that not only do I believe he's going to win this race for Senate, but whatever he chooses to do next, he's got the talent. And he also has the team. I was at his campaign headquarters in Austin, meeting with his team and just listening to the great work that they're doing yesterday. This whole program, this whole campaign is just amazing. And it fills me with so much hope and so much inspiration. I think the more Americans who see that, the more they'll feel the same. But, practically speaking, you're bringing up a really, really good point. We need 51 votes in the Senate to check the worst of Trump's impulses, and they're almost all bad. We also need to get things done. We need to bring, prices down. We need to end the corruption that is running out of the White House and Washington, D.C. right now. And then we need to fix things that are badly broken, like the immigration system that you and I we're talking about right now. Yeah. James is going to be a leader on all of those, but I don't think there's a limit to what he can do or the positions that he can win, including the presidency, should he choose to pursue that at some point, whether it's, 2028, which seems unlikely, or 2032, or somewhere down the line. He's a young guy. And last thing, Jim, what you just said could not be more true. For those who say their vote doesn't count or they're not going to participate in this election, let us not judge them. Let us listen to them and understand why they feel this way, have a conversation, bring them into our politics, and then help them to vote. And that's what we were doing at the El Paso Community College Villa Verde campus today with 18 and 19-year-olds. Jim, some of them said exactly that to me. No, thanks. I'm not doing this. I don't like elections. And then I'd say, okay, no judgment here, but tell me why. And let's talk this through. Is there another way you're going to make this country better if not voting? If you have a better idea, I'm on board. If not, why don't you join us and be part of this? So let's all do our part.
Yeah, no. And the other thing too, is a lot of young people these days, and you talk about generations and guys, people in generations who have trouble, downstairs and whatnot. But, when you talk to young people today, there's a fatalistic streak, I think, in a nihilistic streak in a lot of younger people today and I don't want to keep you too long, but it kind of bugs me a little bit, and it worries me, and it depresses me, I will say, quite frankly, a little bit, because, it's almost like hope has been pulled out of a lot of these young kids these days. And they see that, they see somebody who incited an insurrection return to the presidency and act like a crook, a corrupt gangster, and Stephen Miller in ICE in Minnesota and all these things. And I can see why people get fatalistic and nihilistic and think that what's the point? What's not to hold you longer here, but what is the message to confront that? Because it's potent, it's real.
Yeah. This young man that I spoke with today that I referenced earlier, his name's Jose. And, again, he passed me by and said, no, I'm not into that. And I said, I get you. Come back if you want to talk about this. It'll take 2 minutes to get you registered. He did come back. And he said, look, I don't vote because this stuff doesn't work. I see people around me voting and things do not get better. So I don't want to raise my hopes, and participate in something that's just not going to work. I'd rather just stay apart from this. And I said, I hear you. And I talked about, are there other ways to get to where we want to get to? But if I had more time with him, I would have said, look, the big things that we've done as a country, like civil rights or the Voting Rights Act, it took generations. Like, didn't happen in an election, didn't happen in two. It took decades for us to win that. People lost their lives. They sacrificed everything they could. And we've inherited all that. And what we do with that sacrifice and service that has come down to us, that's going to define me and you, Jose. And it's going to determine what's possible for this country. But last thing on this, Jim, and this is why I'm optimistic and why I'm hopeful. If you go back 250 years up through today, at every major turning point in this country's history, it has been young people who have led us through. Those who fought and defeated the biggest empire on the planet to secure our independence, those who gave their lives against the Confederacy, 300,000 Union dead. I mean, there were 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Yeah. The people who landed on those beaches in Normandy in June of 44 to defeat fascism and protect democracy, kids. And again, those who secured voting rights and civil rights in the 60s. John Lewis was 24 freaking years old when he crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, and nearly lost his life in the process. But in so doing, galvanized public sentiment in America and gave LBJ this chance to do something that we had been trying to do for more than 70 years. So don't sleep on them, right? They come through when we need them the most. And I really believe they will come through again. But let's also be there for them, right? And let's not only be there for them, but follow their lead when they tell us what's important to them. And that's what we're trying to do in Texas and in our group Powered by People.
Amazing. Yeah, I really hope you're right. And we just have to keep hammering home that message, I think, for it to get through to them. Beto O'Rourke, great to see you as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you. Good luck with all your efforts. We'll have you back soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Good to see you. All right. And, I have to tell you, something else that happened today that sort of made me chuckle a little bit. I guess the White House got really pissed at me. I did this piece down in the reflecting pool yesterday where we went down there and I used this very dramatic voice and I said, I'm behind enemy lines, because the helicopters are flying overhead and the National Guard was walking around the reflecting pool and so on. And, I was making fun of the fact that they've turned the reflecting pool thing, Trump's, screw up down at the reflecting pool into this giant thing where they're trying to blame these mysterious vandals for causing this damage to the pool. And I guess the Rapid Response Twitter account for the White House, Rapid Response 47, there it is right there, says, Jim, you are truly one of the dumbest individuals to have ever existed. Please seek professional help. And it's Donald Trump who needs to seek professional help because he keeps saying that there are these vandals who are cutting these giant slits down the reflecting pool. And, he just needs to understand how so dumb and stupid that is. And, we should just play a little bit of this video. I guess Trump was saying, he was talking about the slits. And I just want to show, if we can show him talking about the slits, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
We'll do the final fix-up. But just remember this. They took razor blades 350 feet. Coming from where he comes, they don't do that. They took, maybe a little bit. They took razor blades and knives, and they cut patches like that, 350 feet long. A lot of them are like a foot. They cut the lining. And there's pictures of the guy bending over. I don't know if anybody saw that, but there are pictures of that. And you say, who would do that? Maybe it's Trump derangement syndrome. We fixed over 50 fountains and monuments in the city. The city is the safest it's ever been, ever.
The city is the safest it's ever been, but there are people vandalizing the reflecting pool. And, he also says that there are these activists with Act Blue. I mean, again, we could play that soundbite too. It just makes absolutely no sense what he's saying. They're arresting people and maybe that person is a Democrat, but that does not mean that person is doing anyway. Let's play the one where it says Trump talking about somebody from Act Blue. He's also in the Oval Office with the gold shit around, and we can play that one too. We can talk.
One of the guys, he's a member or a big payer to Act Blue, He's a big Hillary supporter. He's a big supporter of Sleepy Joe Biden. No, this is a very political thing. But as I understand it, 6 are under arrest. This was pure vandalism.
Pure vandalism, pure vandalism. And I guess the National Park Service put out a video. There's like this surveillance video now. This is how far they're going to try to blame this on the vandals. The National Park Service, there it is right there. Have you seen this person? They're saying this person right here in this mysterious looking little clear dot in the middle of this dark screen. That is the mysterious reflecting pool vandal. They're reaching into the water. They're touching the water. They're touching the paint. And that's why Trump's reflecting pool project is such a total disaster. I was down there on the National Mall, and as I showed in my story yesterday, we were playing the video of this yesterday, and it did very well on Twitter, and I guess that's why the White House got pissed about it. You can literally see where the paint has come up. It's disintegrated at the bottom of the pool because they're such morons that they did a shitty job in painting the bottom of the reflecting pool. And by the way, they should not be painting it this dark blue color and then pouring lots of chemicals in there. Chemicals like hydrogen peroxide don't work well with the blue paint. Anyway, it's so silly and stupid. And I know I've been talking about it all week, but I think it crystallizes everything that is wrong with Donald Trump's brain right now. Let's talk about this with Tara Setmayer. I think there she is. Hey, Tara, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hi, Jim.
And I've been thinking we got to get Tara back on the show. And this reflecting pool thing, this fiasco, it's a total screw up. It is the dumbest thing. The way he lies about it is so dumb. And I went down there and I did this little story. I've done like 3 or 4 stories down there because I just think it's so stupid what they're doing. And they blew a gasket. They went crazy.
Yeah, I saw the story this morning
Right.
on the Daily Beast, and it was really early because I was actually in Jersey this past week, and we were on our way home, and it was too early for me to ping you with it. I thought for sure you saw it, but when you sent me when you sent me the piece yesterday, I was like, oh, this is gonna piss them off. Look, this whole fiasco, it's a perfect word. It is a microcosm for everything that's wrong with Donald Trump's presidency. It encapsulates all of it. And the fact that he has completely made up this cockamamie story about vandals and the elaborate way in which he has told this lie is and provably false lie, as you went down to the reflecting pool and did, which is why he's so upset about it, because he's caught. And it's not just you, right? I mean, it's lots of folks can see with their own eyes how asinine his explanation is for what happened actually is. Anyone who's ever taken, I don't know, high school biology can explain to you why the algae blooms continue to happen with the combination of the sun and the swampiness and the depth of the pool, and algae blooms happen. And this is not the first time. So, the guy is such a sick and unhinged individual that this is the length that he would go. But this is the same guy that put a tarp over the Kennedy Center so that we couldn't see them take his name down. I mean, he's unhinged. And
he's not well.
No, he's not well and never really has been. It's getting exponentially worse. But this is just another example. We're like at war. People can't afford groceries. But the world is on fire. And this jackass is over here lying about the reflecting pool for a project that nobody asked for. Yeah. Nobody asked for this. And it's our tax dollars doing it, which is the other part about this that really pisses me off.
And Tara, this is the video right here. You can see it's the paint has come up. It's not slits. It's just patchy paint that's flaked up and come up. And you can see this with your own eyes. It's like 1984. You're supposed to reject what your own eyes tell you, all this stuff. Yeah. But it's real life. But it's so dumb. And they claim that we're, our brains are broken and Trump derangement syndrome and that we're obsessed with this. He is obsessed with this and talks about it all the time. I don't know why he gives a shit about this. It's so stupid.
Why? Look, do you remember when he took the entire motorcade down there to drive along the drained reflecting pool? I mean, to marshal those resources, you know how hard it is, to move the president anywhere publicly. And he decided to waste time and resources with the Secret Service and closing down the roads and all that so he could drive down the drained reflecting pond. He didn't even get the name right. He called it a reflecting pond, right?
I know they call it the Lincoln Monument and all this. I'm like,
It's
you jackasses don't know what you're talking about.
No, and it's all this dictator worship, this like wannabe. He wants everything in his image and likeness because he's staring down his own mortality, and it's so obvious. And yet, this is real life. I mean, this is the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, obsessing over a ballroom and algae blooms in the reflecting pool that nobody asked for. And now that they're fencing it and putting fencing around it, I mean, the whole thing, they arrested people for this nonsense. Like, the whole thing is absurd. But this is what happens when you fire the scientists.
That's right. And the other thing, too, is you mentioned when they took the Secret Service and the motorcade down the middle of the reflecting pool, you can see, because he keeps talking about this 350-foot slit or 300-foot slit down the middle of the reflecting pool. Well, when you show the video of them driving down the middle of the reflecting pool, there's this long-ass trench that goes down, or seam that goes down the middle of the reflecting pool. I guess it's part of the filtration system or the drainage system or whatever.
Right.
And, there's the damn, did he see that and it got stuck in his head, and so he's just having recall problems?
Who knows?
This is like cognitive decline happening in real time before our eyes. The way he talks about this and rants about this, it's bananas.
It is, and it's also indicative of how damaged his brain is, and that he obsesses over these things that are really inconsequential in the greater scheme of things. Like, do you want to be a beautification project manager, or do you want to be president of the United States? But I don't want him in charge of anything. This is the guy that bankrupted casinos, and this is the guy that put cheap Home Depot spray painted, Timu Liberace ornaments in the Oval Office and thinks it looks good. So sorry, miss me.
He's got Saddam Hussein, the decorator there.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Looks like Saddam's palace. It's terrible. So I don't exactly want him to be in charge of beautifying anything.
Well, and the other thing too is that the entire administration has now jumped into this. They put out this be on the lookout thing where, and they showed this video, be on the lookout for this person, and this grainy video who reached into the pool, and she obviously touched them. If you touch the fucking paint, you're not a vandal. First of all, if you touch the fucking paint, you're not a vandal. Please stop with, well, they touched the paint, so they're a vandal.
Right.
Nobody believes that unless you're brainwashed and you watch Jesse Waters all the time.
Exactly.
That.
Exactly. You want to see vandals? Watch the January 6th videos. Those are vandals, okay? Those are vandals. People who are wiping shit on the walls of the Capitol and busting
breaking
down windows and doors and stealing lecterns. Those are vandals, Mr. President, not people who are touching the reflecting pond, which is supposed to be a memorial for all of the American people to enjoy. So it's just, again, he is. It's going to get worse. He's throwing these temper tantrums because his poll numbers are sinking. Republicans in Capitol Hill are starting to actually stand up to him, kind of, sort of. He's not getting his way. Yeah, he's not getting his way. So he's like a toddler. He throws temper tantrums, and this is, you're not gonna take my toys away from me. And this is this is what these are for him. These are toys at taxpayer expense.
And he doesn't own any of this. He doesn't own the Kennedy Center, doesn't own the White House. He's also a vandal because he bulldozed. He destroyed federal property, which is a crime.
Yes.
He destroyed part of the White House. That's a crime.
Yep.
In my view, he should be arrested for that. But the other thing, too, is that
if only, Jim, if only. He's been arrested a couple times, but I
guess maybe a third mugshot. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Apparently, an Interior Department nominee went before this Senate committee or subcommittee yesterday and was answering questions from Sheldon Whitehouse. I just want to play this because it shows the lengths that they will go to, people in the administration, to make Donald Trump's lies their lies, his stupidity their stupidity. If we can play the Sheldon Whitehouse clip, because
President has claimed that vandals took some form of knife or blade and put a 250-foot long gash into the beautiful facade of what took so much work, competence, and money to build and complete. He increased the estimate to 300 feet later, then to 350 feet. What can you tell me about what damage was done to the reflecting pool, where this 350-foot gash came from, and why tourists are being arrested.
For anyone to apply, and I'm not saying that you are, that the U.S. Park Police in any way use political motivation to carry out their duties, I think would be unjust, and in some ways an egregious accusation.
So what's the predicate then? Was there in fact a 350-foot gash done by a vandal to the reflecting pool?
The predicate, sir, is that I have no doubt that the police officers involved in the apprehensions of these individuals were doing their duty. Vandalism of any kind.
This is made up.
It's like Veep.
Yeah,
It
but
hurts everyone.
But Mr. Lynn, the question is,
I know. Where's the Veep
was
music?
there vandalism? Did
This should be
someone
the
cut
play
a
the outro.
350-foot gash in the reflecting pool? And
God
what
bless Sheldon
vandalism
White
did
House
these
for asking
individuals
these
do? Is it really
questions in a serious
vandalism
way.
to pick a
I
piece
would
of
just be
floating
laughing
peeled
at him.
paint out of the reflection pool? People have run through.
I would just be laughing at this. I'm sorry. I know it would be nice, but I would just be laughing at this. I shouldn't laugh at this gentleman. I'm sure he's a nice man.
He's not. He's not. Don't give him. No, Jim, you're a nice man. This guy's an asshole, like everybody else inside the administration that carries the water for the asshole in chief. Because this is so.
We have choices in life.
Infuriating. Exactly. Exactly. For now, at least.
For now. Well, and the other
now.
thing too is you're mentioning, how he's getting tired, and people don't want to go to his speeches as much anymore. I guess they had this Freedom 250 thing that they're doing down at the National Mall, and I'm going to go down there because I got to tell you that apparently they put up like a miniature version of the arch, and it's just it's like an abandoned Trump amusement park or something from from our future, I guess, when we all come back and look at this stuff.
Yeah.
But last night he spoke, and he put this Truth Social post that people waited until the very end. It says, people waited until the very end of my speech because they loved hearing about a truly successful America. See you again on July 4th. President Donald J. Trump, he said they stayed until the very end. Tara, he knows for a fact they don't stay till the very end. And the Bulwark got video, and it shows people leaving in the middle of his speech.
This has been going on for a while, right? This is not unique. For the last year or two, people have been leaving his speeches early because he says the same things over and over and over again. And people have been standing out there for hours because of security and all of that. So they've had enough. They get their melatonin rush or their serotonin rush. And then they leave. Their dopamine rush of Trump.
They
and
want to
leave.
beat the crowds because a lot of them are elderly, very, they're senior citizens, and they want to get back to their station wagons and whatnot to go home.
Right. Or here's the other thing too, which is I'm so glad they got footage of this. Anytime Donald Trump says this is what happened, it's because it's the absolute opposite of what actually happened. Right. It's always that. So that he was aware that people were leaving early. So he's going to do the 1984 Orwellian propaganda tactic of telling you, don't believe your lying eyes. Right. It's the same thing when he talks about how healthy he is, how strong he is, how smart he is, how cognitively with it he is. All of those things is the complete opposite. When he calls Barack Obama a stupid son of a bitch and says the Iranians are laughed at him, it's because that's what's happening to him. So it's a weird thing where he's aware of it. So he has to overcompensate for it and try to lie to the American people about it. But at the same time, it's how can you be that deranged all the time? It must be exhausting. It's got to be exhausting. It's why he can't stay awake.
It's why he can't stay awake. And, if you look at the Maggie Haberman, Jonathan Swan book, he's doing things apparently he's super gluing the shit to the walls in the White House.
I thought you were talking about his hair. I thought that's where you were going.
Well, that could be it. That could be it too. But I mean, we got 2.5. We often say we've got 2.5 more years of this, but he has 2.5 more years of this conceivably. And I just don't see how I don't know how he makes it. I just don't know. I don't know. He doesn't seem well right now.
He doesn't seem well. His hairpiece doesn't seem well. His suits don't seem well.
Yeah. He looks like shit.
Yeah, the shit shellac bronzer stuff that he puts on doesn't look well. His hands don't look well. His neck doesn't look well. His ankles don't look well. I mean, The whole thing is falling apart here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're all hostage to this nightmare as long as he's in power. But again, that's why, like you said, we're 2.5 years to go in this, but we have 132 days until the midterms. Yeah. Where if you want to see any type of accountability or to stop this in any way, or at least make it miserable for him, as Senator Cornyn predicted it would happen if he loses the House and Senate, people have to go out and vote these bastards out of power. Not him, because obviously he's president, but all of his minions that are around him, the Republican enablers who are going up there and supporting dumbasses like the guy justifying what happened here with the reflecting pond. Like, there has to be more. We need more Sheldon White Houses. We need more, Congressman Crows and Raskins and people like that up there that are going to hold these people accountable and tell the American people the truth, because otherwise I don't know what we're all doing here.
Yeah, and we're showing this Fox poll, only 31% approve of his handling of the economy. That is dog shit. I mean, that is, that's worse than the paint coming up on the reflecting pool or the makeup coming up on the hands.
Right. I mean, we joke about that, but I'll tell you something. This is anecdotal, but it seems to be consistent with the polling that's come out lately. Like I said, I was in Jersey for the last week, and I was down at the Jersey Shore visiting friends, and that's a very red area, admittedly. And in the past, I've seen a bunch of Trump flags, a bunch of MAGA flags, a bunch of let's go Brandon flags when Biden was in office, all of that nonsense. There was even a restaurant that we boycotted, we didn't go to, because they had a MAGA flag hanging from their fence. And I'm like, I'm not going there. I found out later on that it actually was not the restaurant, it's the neighbor whose fence line, and the restaurant wasn't happy about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, because we met the owner, and I said, let me tell you, we never came to your restaurant because of that flag. And she was like, oh my God, I know it was a battle. But that's been a couple years going on. This trip, Jim, I didn't see one Trump flag.
Wow.
Not one. And there used to be stores like merch stores that flew all the crazy, MAGA stuff and Trump with the muscles and all that. Gone. On the boardwalks, there used to, and at the stores and on the boardwalk, they used to have a lot of front and center Trump stuff. Gone.
Wow.
I talked to a couple people who said, I voted for him the first time, and I don't know what's going on this time. He's a liar. He's a liar. And I was like, wow, those are his people starting to wake up.
They're pissed about the war, the gas prices, the Epstein files.
Yes.
And when all of those things start to weigh on top of you and on top of him, when he starts lying about the reflecting pool, it's like the Wizard of Oz, the curtain's been peeled back, and now we see the guy.
Yes.
And he's just this, kind of feeble old man, and he can't really get shit done. And he's just making these loud noises into this giant machine that, that makes him seem more powerful than he actually is. And I think
there's deadly consequences, though.
There's deadly consequences.
I wish it was just a fantasy, and
I wish,
but it's not, unfortunately. And people are suffering, people are dying, people are losing their businesses, their livelihoods, their farms. You have soldiers. I'll tell you one more story. One of the neighbors of our friends down there, his son is in the Navy. And he applied to go to Navy SEAL training. And he failed the first time, which most people, a lot of people do, but he got invited to come back again. He cannot go and report to Navy SEAL training to try again because he's deployed on a ship in the Persian Gulf, way past the deployment date was supposed to be. And the captain of the ship or his superior or whomever won't let him leave to go to SEAL training. Wow. Thank you, Donald Trump.
Wow.
But he loves the troops.
And a lot of the troops, I mean, I've been getting emails from some of the family members of some of these soldiers, and they've reached out to me and talked about the conditions that some of their family members who are in the armed services in the Navy, what they're dealing with, what they're having to eat, what their living conditions are like, and how they're stuck there for months and months, and it's not good. The other thing we should talk about, Tara, and you know how much I love you and just think the world of you. I know earlier this year, I think it might have been back in April or March, we talked about your family farm in New Jersey and how your family is losing that farm because of an insurance company not doing right by you. And I know it's been a battle and everything, and now you're trying to save the family farm, and you've got to GoFundMe, and we could show it to everybody in case folks want to chip in. But I mean, this is, tell us about this, Sarah, because I'm so glad that you're still fighting for this.
Yes. And thank you so much, Jim. This has been such a horrible nightmare for my family. And it's not a farm, although when my family came to
a family home, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. No, because when my great grandparents came here 100 years ago through Ellis Island, it was farmland in Paramus, New Jersey. My great grandparents were German Jews that left Germany at a time that was they needed to go when the brown shirts were trying to recruit my great uncle when he was 10. They decided to leave, and they settled in Paramus, New Jersey. And people who know me, who follow me, they know that I'm a very proud Jersey girl. And I'm in my Jersey regalia today because I knew we'd be talking about this. And, a pipe burst in our home, and State Farm has not done right by us. And they have delayed, they have underpaid, they are not doing the right thing. State Farm is not a good neighbor. And because of all of these delays and the damage, I mean, the pipe burst basically destroyed the home. It destroyed the home, and we were covered for everything. And they promised us that everything would be taken care of. And that's not what happened. And we lost family heirlooms, things that can't be replaced. I for those who watched back in April, I was absolutely apoplectic. I posted a video, a really raw and emotional video. I was hysterical because I had just found out that my mom was on the verge of selling the property because it has it's uninhabitable. The water damage was so bad that it was uninhabitable. It was deemed condemned immediately. And so with all the mounting expenses of 2 locations and also the mortgage and then State Farm not making the payments, the house was going into foreclosure. And my mom didn't want to lose it in foreclosure and put it up for sale. And we got an offer. And I was devastated because, and this is very important, and I'm going to try to keep it together. When my grandfather was 90, he lived to be 90. The property was the pride and joy of our family. It's a legacy. Like I said, my great grandparents settled there in 1924. 4 generations of my family grew up there. And my grandfather left the house to my mom and I promised him that we would never sell the house. I promised him we would take care of it. And so to know that we were in duress like this and could lose the property because State Farm was not doing the right thing to help restore the property for us, and it financially bankrupted our family. And we were at wit's end. And when my mom, the night that I posted that video, my mom told me that there was an offer and she was going to take it. And she was hysterical. Nobody wants to do this. Like, we didn't want to do this. And I kicked into just like problem solving mode. What can we do? I just needed to be honest about what was going on. We put on a brave face, in this fight every day. Yes, I'm a fighter and I'm a tough Jersey chick, but this is breaking me in more ways than one. And so we try to delay, and we've been able to delay since April. A lot of people have asked, like, what's going on? What's the situation? The response, Jim, was overwhelming. That video went viral.
I remember that. Yes.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that. And a lot of people reached out because we were looking for help. We were looking for someone can anyone help us with this? Are there any lawyers that can help us with this? Do we know what are our rights at this point? And so for the last couple of months, we've been trying to navigate all of this. I didn't have a GoFundMe set up at the time because I didn't really know what the ask was. There were so many things going on. But here's the thing. Because of the generosity of and the caring and compassion of people, we were able to find someone who's a public advocate from New Jersey to help us navigate and tell us like what our rights are. That's great. Right. But here's the next step. We were trying to find lawyers who would represent us on contingency because we're not wealthy people. And contrary to what people think, I don't get paid for what I do on television. And I left an organization a couple of years ago on principle to start the Seneca Project. And that was not an easy decision to make, but it was the right one. But doing the right thing has a price. It has a price. Maintaining your integrity in this environment has a price. A lot of people have been bought off and I have not. And it's cost me. And as a result of that, I am not in a financial position to rescue my family's property and keep my promise to my grandfather. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So we found lawyers, but we need to pay them. We have to set up a legal fund to pay them to stand up for us to fight State Farm and help with all the expenses and everything. My mom's health has taken a turn because of all of this. She's got chronic kidney disease. She was hospitalized twice. We found out my stepdad has to have a brain tumor removed at the end of this year. All of this has been going on while we're trying to save our property. The picture I have behind me, I have it in the story, is the picture of my grandfather, who was a captain of our hometown police department for 40 years. He was a volunteer fireman for 70 years. He's a World War II veteran, super proud of being from Paramus, as am I. And he marched in every 4th of July parade from 1947, when he came back from World War II, until 2016, the year he passed. In 2016, this photograph right here is the police department wheeling him in his wheelchair down the parade route because he refused to miss a parade. And he couldn't walk anymore, but they wheeled him and he passed 10 days later. So this is about, it's more than just like help us save our property. Yes, but it's 100-year legacy for my family. I don't have children. And so it's like the Setmayer name and everything that went into that is represented here and in that town. And it's a promise I made to my grandfather that we don't want to have to sell the property or lose it to foreclosure or lose it because a multi-billion-dollar insurance company is not doing the right thing. And I know we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. People across the country have been screwed over by insurance companies and have lost everything as well. And so this is kind of like a microcosm. I'm a fighter. You know me, Jim.
I know you. You're not going to give up.
I fight for everybody else. I fight for everybody else. And now I have to, it's come to the point now that I need help in this fight against State Farm to save everything. Because it's bad enough we've lost the everything inside. I mean, when I say we lost everying because of the water damage, we lost.
I remember you telling me that story.
We lost my grandfather's like military documents, his World War II hat, his like my mother's costumes when my mother was a dancer. She was in Broadway and things, her childhood costumes, my baby shoes. My grandmother was a competitive dog handler and a dog trainer. Her ribbons, they threw everything out because nothing could be saved. And when my mom got so sick because the property was so full of mold, she was in the hospital for 2 weeks. The salvage company went in and just threw everything out. There was no one there to tell them, I don't care how moldy it is, save it.
Right.
So it's just been a catastrophic loss on multiple levels, and we have to fight back. It's not right what happened to us. When you have insurance, you pay your premiums on time. You expect the insurance company to be there for you. And State Farm has the slogan that, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. That slogan is bullshit. They are not a good neighbor. They are not there when you need them. And they have perpetually done this to families, and they've taken on the wrong people. But we need help. We need help.
Yeah.
And that's what the GoFundMe is about. We need help to get the legal fund established and to just help with all of the expenses of living in 2 properties and trying to get back on our feet and try to restore something and save the property from foreclosure.
And Terry, I'm sure you got this on your socials. Hopefully I can repost that. Make sure I see this. I'll repost it so everybody can see it.
Thank you.
But everybody needs to go out there and help Tara in this battle. I know you're just getting started.
We literally just went live as we came on for your show today. So this is the first time I'm announcing this. It's a debut announcement. Mr. Acosta, you got the exclusive.
Well, I'm going to go on there in just a minute and do my part.
Well, thank you. But yes, so that's where we are, and we really need to try to raise this money by July 15th. It's the first hard deadline in all of this. And, you know, as July 4th is approaching, this is a very emotional time for me. I can't even talk about it because it just brings back such great memories of me as a kid and my grandfather and just the promise I made to him and you know, what this is doing to our family. I'm just hoping that the generosity of the American people will come through for us and help us save our family property.
Well, I think it will, Tara. And, you know how much you mean to me and my family. And, you know, we're just sending out as much love and support and good thoughts as we can to you. And I just encourage people to help Tara out because, you know, these insurance companies, you know, they're bloodsuckers. And it just pisses me off when I hear this kind of stuff because people just pump out so much money, these insurance companies. And then when you need them, they try to figure out a way to get out of honoring their commitments. And, you know, it's just, it's this country that we've become. We've got to stop being that kind of a place. We've got to get back to a place where we are looking out for our neighbors, where we are looking out for our friends. We are our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. That is job one as an American, to look out for one another. So Tara, I have a feeling that this is going to get the ball rolling, and just let me know if I can do anything else, honestly.
Thank you, Jim. You've given me your platform, and this much time is priceless, and your friendship, and you know how much I love you and Liz and everybody. So thank you for indulging me and letting me lose it on your show again. This is like, you know, there's only a couple things. There's only a couple things that do this to me. And
I've got a shoulder right here. You anytime you need it, it's all there for you. But Tara, thank you so much for sharing that with us again, and just keep us posted. We'll just keep talking about this, and I have a feeling that this is going to work out, and you're going to come out the other side of this. But it's a battle. We're all in a battle these days, you know. That's why you have to be kind to people. You never know what kind of battle they're going through, and I know you're going through this, and I'm sorry, but we're gonna be there for you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your audience. They're the best.
Thanks, Tara. Great to see you. All right, God bless. And I'm just going to leave it right there, folks, today, because you know I could go on a rant and talk about the reflecting pool and the Kennedy Center, but we got to get back to taking care of one another. We got to get back to taking care of our friends, our neighbors, our family members, the people who are in need in this country. We've got to recapture that spirit, that kindness and generosity that we know that's in all of us, and show that to the people who are in need. You never know when we will. Therefore, the grace of God go I. You never know when we're going to be in that position. And so whatever you can do to help Tara out, please do it. And I'll make sure I repost her post so folks know where this is at, and they can go to it and help out if they can. And, you know, again, this is a calling to all of us. We've got to do a better job in all of this. Yes, we have leaders who don't inspire us to those kinds of ideals and thoughts and commitments and so on, but we can do our own leadership and be the kind of neighbors and friends and family members that we deserve in this world. That, you know, it just seems to be just defined by so much greed and let me just grab what I can get and not look out for other people. That's not who we are. We look out for one another in this country. That's how it should be. And I think that's how it's going to be. But in the meantime, I want to thank Beto O'Rourke for joining me today. Also, the great Tara Setmayer. Always enjoy having her on. She's the best. And again, sending out all the love that we can to Tara right now in this hour of need. But in the meantime, still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. I'll see you next time.